hard to get used to Filipino lifestyle. It's crazy.
Hey guys, Walking Man Walks, back with an update on the Elliot Eastman incident. If you're not familiar, Elliot Eastman is an expat living down in the Zamboanga Peninsula, down in Mindanao, which I made a video about this when he first went missing. This is one of the more dangerous places in the Philippines. There's Muslim extremist groups down there, and it's one of the places where you could easily be kidnapped, and most of the time you're kidnapped for ransom money. It's economic. Doesn't really matter who you are. But we do have this update to the Elliot Eastman issue, and it is an unfortunate, tragic outcome.
An American vlogger who decided to document his move to the Philippines reportedly was kidnapped in one of the country's most dangerous regions, and now, according to authorities, he is believed to be dead. We're digging into how an honest attempt to make it in a new place turned into a tragedy. Elliot Eastman, a 26-year-old man from Vermont, was likely killed by kidnappers when he was abducted from his home in the southern part of the Philippines back in October. That was the announcement from the Philippine National Police after weeks of searching for this missing expat. Now, Eastman had been living in the Philippines since May. He had married a local woman named Carisha, and it appears, based on his live streams, that he had opened a small grocery business at his home in the coastal town of Cebuco. Now, Eastman documented his new life in these live streams and videos on YouTube and Facebook, sometimes including Carisha. And in the description for one of those videos, he wrote that he was the first and only foreigner to have ever lived in Cebuco for an extended period of time. As time passed on, Eastman he seemed to get a little bit more wary of his surroundings and often mentioned kidnappings as a potential danger.
And if it comes to the point where it's like, all of a sudden I'm kidnapped and something's gonna happen to me, I'm gonna ask myself, I don't know.
As you can see by that footage, Eastman was aware maybe that somebody wanted to kidnap him. Nobody really knows, where this paranoia came from, but living in the Philippines, I do see people are definitely envious of you. And, I'm in the northern Philippines. It's a much different environment here as far as law enforcement and that kind of thing, and just the attitude of the people. Down there, they're primarily Muslim. Up here, they're primarily Christian and Catholic. But I don't know if that had that much to do with it. That might have, something to do with it. But there are extremist groups operating down there. But this apparently was just some local criminals, which we'll find out later in the story.
Now, Carisha's family apparently lived in that same area. And back in August, based on what was said on the live streams, there was reportedly some drama involving Carisha's sister and her apparent decision to actually take down one of the pieces of plywood that it made up a wall of their home and store, which, as you can imagine what happened, it led to money being stolen from the store.
We got robbed last night.
What?
Yeah, our store. I think maybe somebody climbed through here because we left our money here from our store. So I think either somebody came through here or they came to the door. I don't really know, but we were missing like 300.
Last night?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a few issues here. Just like the rest of the world in the Philippines, money makes the world go round. Now, he had 300 pesos stolen. That's about $5 or $6 US, but that's a decent amount of money for the people here. It's not going to make or break them or anything like that. But the more interesting aspect of this is the sister-in-law taking down one of the walls of his store, apparently. And that makes me think of what people call here, or what I've heard here, is the crab mentality. Like people, bringing somebody down if they're starting to rise on the social or socioeconomic scale because of envy. So, and a lot of time it comes from within the family. So did Elliot's wife's family have something to do with the kidnapping, or did they have prior knowledge? Maybe that's how he knew ahead of time that he might be kidnapped. We just don't know. Maybe in the future, further stuff will come out. We haven't heard anything from his wife, you know, what she knew and what happened to her after all this.
Being here, and especially this is a new culture and everything, there's so many things that I'm running into the way with, like the bathroom smells like so bad. Like nobody, it smells like so bad. Right? So that's one thing. The other thing, though, the roof is leaking, getting all over my investment, getting all my things wet. The other day, my inverter just broke. That cost $100, so that's broken now. And then last night, somebody stole all our money from our store. And now these waves are huge coming in. Like, if these waves get super huge, maybe they're gonna come up here and splash up on this Wi-Fi. We don't really know, but I don't know, dude.
So Elliot was a young guy, and I don't really blame him for this. I was similar when I was his age, but it sounds like he didn't really do his research properly. If you're going to put a store right on the beach in the Philippines, you always have to think about typhoons. Nowhere in the Philippines is safe from typhoons. Actually, this reminds me, just the other day, I was talking to my girlfriend's mom, has been staying with us for a week now, because my girlfriend has been sick, but you guys saw that in a few of my other videos. And we were talking about where I want to move to for reasons of pollution and stuff like that, which I talked about in my last video. Maybe I'll link that up here. And I was talking about Rojas and Bohol, and her mom said, well, there's typhoons down there. And I reminded her that we had 6 typhoons here in November, and this is the only place I've ever been chest deep in water in a typhoon. So you're not really safe anywhere in the Philippines from typhoons. But one thing you can do to mitigate is that is not live or open a sari store, 100 yards from the break on the beach. That's probably not a good idea unless you put up a structure that could handle that kind of water, or an elevated structure, or in general, it's probably not a good idea unless it's a vacation house you're going to go to and not your permanent property. The traditional Filipinos, the Filipinos back before colonization were basically a nomadic peoples, and they spent the majority of the year on the coast fishing and making their living like that. But for typhoon season, they would move up to the mountains and farm rice and, all the various fruits and vegetables you could farm here. But, with colonization, the Spanish, the Americans, they became more stationary and less nomadic. And obviously that, typhoons have a greater consequence because of that. Also, when he mentions the roof leaking and the bathroom smelling. And if you're going to live the type of lifestyle, like I think Mr. Eastman lived here, living at the bare minimum, like you see expats all the time on the internet talking about, you could live on $500 a month here, and you can, but you're going to have a leaky roof and a stinky bathroom. Like, my roof doesn't leak here. My bathroom doesn't stink. It's a normal bathroom, a good roof. I don't live on $500 a month. I mean, I live on maybe $1,000, $1,500, some months $2,000 a month. I mean, you could still live very inexpensively, but if you're going to live on $500 a month, yeah, you're going to have a leaky roof and a stinky bathroom where, you clean yourself with your hand and a bucket of water, but you don't have to live like that. This is why, if you're going to move to the Philippines, you want to plan, you want to do your research, you want to see the areas that are going to be safe to live in, or relatively safe, and the areas that are going to be relatively dangerous to live in, like the Zamboanga Peninsula, the Sulu Islands, General Santos, Cotabato. Those are all places that, yeah, you could visit, and you could even live there. I have listeners who live there and they're perfectly safe, but they keep a low profile. They're not on YouTube bragging or complaining or whatever, that they're just keeping a low profile. Apparently the kidnappers found him on YouTube, and he's the only person who ever lived in this. He's the only white guy who ever lived, or foreigner, in the town he's living in, which makes you stick out like a sore thumb. I mean, I'm the only foreigner living in the town I'm in right now, but it's just a different situation. We have missionaries coming through. I met a missionary last year from the US, from Utah, just in the streets here. And there are a lot more used to foreigners here. We're 10 miles from a decent sized northern city, Loag, and, there's an airport close. So it's just much different up here.
But I feel like I've been staying in this area for so long to the point where I don't even know if people like me anymore. Maybe they want bad things to happen to me now. It's like, that's how I'm starting to think. So it's like, it's really not good. I don't really know, like, what would happen if somebody did come try to come here and kidnap me, right? Would the neighbors help me, or would they just sit there and watch? Because it's gotten to the point where I've been here for so long that people are, like, have become normalized for me in this area, and especially the family I'm living with, and I just don't know. Like, I get mixed feelings, so it's kind of like, I'm at that point where that's how I feel. So it's not good. I'm just getting tired of, like, being around all the same people.
During their investigation, the National Police told the New York Times that they spoke to a relative of one of the suspects who revealed that actually Eastman had been shot twice, once in the leg, once in the torso. When the alleged kidnappers got to the boat, they realized Eastman had died. So this witness apparently told police that they put his body in the water. Now, because Eastman's body has never been found, police say it's difficult to prove whether what the witness is saying is true or not. There had been hope that perhaps Eastman was, being held somewhere, maybe for ransom. The FBI has even reportedly joined the search for him. This is according to outlets like The Sun. But then a few weeks after the abduction, police got into a shootout with multiple suspects. Authorities say 3 suspects were killed. Eventually, one suspect has been taken into custody. That's based on reporting. And this person reportedly corroborated what that witness had told police, saying that one of the men dumped Eastman overboard. A lieutenant colonel with the National Police told the Associated Press, "We are constrained to believe that he has died. All of the information that we have points to that." And according to the Daily Mail, a former mayor of the region told reporters that the kidnappers may have targeted Eastman because they believed him to be a rich American with lots of money. They may have also resented a foreigner living with a local Muslim woman, meaning his wife. And by the way, the suspect who's in custody apparently gave a sworn statement. It was handed over to prosecutors. And the police say Eastman's family back in the United States, they were notified of the 26-year-old's likely death by the U.S. Embassy.
Okay, a couple of points here. I mean, I think one thing, if you're going to move to the Philippines, don't live with your wife or girlfriend's family. That's a bad idea. If you can't afford to live on your own, you're probably not ready to move to the Philippines yet. Work more in the U.S., save more money. Another thing about that I didn't mention before about opening a Surrey store, I had heard from another vlogger a long time ago who tried to open a Surrey store. First of all, they're everywhere. So there'll be like 5 or 6 on a block. So the competition is enormous. The profits are really low. And the Filipinos don't necessarily like competition from a foreigner. So you're going to attract attention like that. Another thing, the fact that he's kind of tipped off and on to the fact that people want to kidnap him. I think people, he heard people talking, or somebody in his family mentioned that he wasn't that popular around there. And I also think that the stark difference in religions, like the Muslim culture, Islamic culture, is much different than like the Christian culture or the Catholic culture. They don't like outsiders coming in and marrying Islamic women. They're just less accepting of that, I think. Go ahead and comment below if you're a follower of Islam. I have no preference in religions here. I've studied a bunch of different religions when I was back in school, and a lot of them to me are alike, but Islam is different. I admit I don't have as much knowledge about it. I mean, I know how the religion was started, the Prophet Muhammad, all that stuff. Go ahead and comment below if you're Muslim, or if you're, even better, if you're from the peninsula down there or from the South, and you could give us a little more insight into why people didn't like him, or they just don't like outsiders there. My first girlfriend in the Philippines, she was Catholic, but her aunt was Muslim, and it was like a split family. And this was in northern Mindanao. It's safer there than southern Mindanao for a foreigner, but not as safe, say, as it is up here. And she had a sister that was married to a Muslim guy, and the town they lived in, I can't recall the name of it right now. I'll write it in here if I remember. I'll put it up here if I remember. But I couldn't even go to that town. They said it was completely unsafe. I would almost surely get kidnapped or killed if I went to this town. I think Islamic religions like that, especially here, for some reason, just don't like outsiders. But comment what you think, especially if you are a believer in Islam or you practice Islam and you live in Mindanao or Zamboanga or somewhere down there.